Hello and welcome to On the Corner, the official podcast, pitchlist.com. I'm your host, Eric Smolsky, joined after a week off together by Nick
Yes.
Pollock. Nick, we're back.
Hi. What is happening, Eric? How are you?
I'm tired, Nick, because as you know, it was a late night last night watching the New York Knickerbockers take a one-game lead in the NBA Finals.
Yes.
Super exciting stuff.
Yes. I mean, it's an exciting time. It really is.
It's the
If you
one
guys don't
other
know,
sport we're allowed to.
I've never seen a Knick championship, and I was a big fan in the 90s and all, and it's a great time.
Yeah. You weren't born in 1973 when they won a championship?
No, I was not. Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Absolutely
Yes,
crazy. I know you were, but
I watched a few championship losses. That's offensive. Thank you.
Oh yeah, that was bad.
But yes, we are not going to talk basketball today because we've got to speed through our starting pitchers, our schedule as we have been doing. We're going to cover the last 3 games of this week, Friday to Sunday, and then next week looking at pitchers who, we think you could be using or not using, getting rid of, moving on from, etc. So as always, just a little primer at the top that we are not going to talk about those aces. We're not going to talk about the guys you're starting, are locked on your rosters. We're going to try to focus on the more fringy questions, which means that we're not going to talk about Kyle Bradish anymore for the Orioles, because at this point, we've just seen that he has kind of become a little bit closer to the guy we thought he was going to be at the start of the season. And so you're locking him in there. But the rest of the Orioles are a bit of a question mark. They have 3 at Toronto to end this weekend. Then they go 3 home against the Mariners next week. 4 home against the Mariners next week, and then 3 against the Padres. It's 2-start week for Trevor Rogers. It's versus Seattle and against the Padres, who really struggle against left-handed pitchers. How are you feeling about Trevor Rogers in that 2-start week, or just Trevor Rogers in general?
Yeah, Trevor Rogers, it's interesting because when he came back from the IL, I believe it was against the Yankees, it was still ill. His stuff was still looking good, and then he had a really bad game where he just was not looking good at all. Might have been actually against the Yankees again. And I was incredibly disappointed. I was like, all right, you know what? I'm not going to do this whole thing. Like, he's pitching, the results are bad, but the stuff is good. It wasn't. And then the last game was much better. And I don't know, maybe it's something where some deception has been lost in some fashion. Maybe some sequencing. There's something that is just that little extra spice that is missing at the moment. I still feel like it should be better.
Sure.
I don't want to take the risk right now for Trevor Rogers, right? If I'm looking at it for next week against Seattle and then against the Padres, that is better than at Boston, because you have at least the Padres, who are really bad against lefties. The Red Sox are betting against them. And I would love to just assess the game on Thursday today beforehand. So let's say we have Trevor Rogers pitching actually decently well against the Red Sox. Then I would say, okay, cool. You should do much better against it, against the Mariners and the Padres. If it's really rough, I probably wouldn't risk it.
We had Shane Baz pitch relatively well against the Red Sox, and Baz has pitched pretty well recently. Last 4 or 5 starts, the strikeouts haven't really been there, but the ratios are solid. Would you start Shane Baz against the Blue Jays this weekend, against the Padres next week? Are you kind of back in?
I'm not. I led with him as pretty much calling it a faux Baz, and it's a case where I'm not seeing enough improvement. Yeah, the curveball was located well, but I'm not really seeing gains on the fastball. I'm not really seeing a much better cutter involved here either. And it's just not a version of Baz that I go, oh man, cool. That's the main thing that I really want to lean into. And I totally believe that he's a new pitcher now.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just kind of gone his way. So I'm not saying that you should just completely avoid it, but I just don't think that Shane Baz is the guy that we really want him to be yet.
Yeah, I'm with you on it. I think in deeper formats, I'd be okay with it, but I'm not chasing in shallow again. The Red Sox rotation is going to be pretty much locked in like this for a while. Garrett Crochet had a slight setback with his lat, and that was when he was still building up. So he still has to throw bullpens. He still has to, kind of face live pitching. So we're going to be without Crochet for a while still. Sonny Gray, Ranger Suarez, Connolly Early, Peyton Tolley, all of these guys we feel pretty good about. Early in particular seems to have turned a corner a little bit of late. We're going to get Brian Bayo today. We have gotten a better version of Brian Bayo I know that there is the narrative of him, being a follower, right? But I also think that the changeup command has been better recently, and we have been talking about that for what feels like 7 years now for Brian Bayo, but it's maybe just two. But if that change for me, I'm just watching. I'm not currently comfortable using him in outside of like an AO only format, but I am
Mhm.
watching that changeup command because for me, that's far more important than saying, "Hey, Bayo is really good as a follower." He needs that changeup. It was his best pitch for years. And if he's able to get that changeup command back to something we've seen before, I think he becomes more of that like streaming option, not like a locked in ace, but like somebody you can actually pitch in decent matchups.
Yeah, I mean, the appeal of him has been volume over the years. Now, it's really unfortunate that for him to pitch well, it's an opener, which means you don't get the quality start, which is honestly his best asset over the years.
Sure.
But you're right that as long as he has his changeup, which was his main thing, things are good. I I don't really want to go after it. I feel I hate dealing with opener stuff. It's just so I don't know. It's confusing. It's not doesn't feel right to me. I know it's a pretty dumb statement, but it's just always just a little knock for me
Sure.
personally. And then you throw in the fact that his floor has been so bad. The Red Sox aren't the most winning team. I'm sorry, Eric. I
Nope.
apologize,
That's true. It's okay. They are
but
not.
I speak truth here,
You do. You
and
do. We speak truth.
and all of that combined is just like I don't really feel like I need to go after Bayo, but yeah, it's questionable. Sounds right to me.
Yeah. Moving on to the Yankees, 3 against the Red Sox this weekend, 3 at Cleveland next week, and then 3 at Toronto. It's 2-start week for Garrett Cole. It feels kind of like we've settled in with this rotation, like Schlittler, Cole, Rodon, Weathers, Warren. I know Rodon's command hasn't been what we want it to be, but I think all 5 of those guys you just kind of have to roll out there now.
Yeah. With Cole, we only saw 3 whiffs yesterday against the Guardians, and it was a game where he had terrible command, but his
Mhm.
stuff was still good, and he just was praying that his stuff would do all the work for him. He almost made it to a poor quality start through 6. So I feel like he's going to be much better against the Guardians if you're worried about that repeat matchup for him. But yeah, no, everybody, you just roll out there right now.
We we
It's a
did
great
get some
rotation.
some velocity decrease from Cam Schlittler in his last timeout, but
One tick.
we're not worried about it. It's about
No.
2 ticks towards the end of the game, but we're not worried about it.
Well,
But
right, but
again,
that's a standard -1 moving
yes,
on. So then
sure.
it's I really
I
would
think
not be afraid of that.
it raised some alarm bells because, coming into the year, everybody was like, this guy's velocity has jumped so much in a year that it's like signals those red flags. And so I think people were,
Sure.
were keeping an eye on it. I think it was just a poor start for somebody who hasn't really had a poor start in a
Right.
long time.
Right.
So, yeah. Um, we got the Rays. They have 3 at Miami this weekend. They have 3 against Boston next week, and then 3 at the Angels. It's a 2-start week for Steven Matz against Boston and the Angels, but Matz has struggled lately. Have we kind of moved on from Steven Matz as a streamer?
Yeah, I mean it's unfortunate because like it's a guy that we know can be a good swatch with his sinker and
Mhm.
his changeup. But yeah, no, at this point, like why do this? It's been 3 starts of just not working out. It wasn't a high ceiling in the first place. So yeah, no, I'm moving past Steven Matz.
A lot of people are moving on from Griffin Jacks. He gets
Mm.
Miami this weekend, then he gets the Angels next week. Am I wrong for still thinking that it works? Like the package, it works.
Eric, you know you're not wrong.
Okay, well,
You know you're not wrong.
I need to hear you say it
It's
then.
incredible stuff. I love that he has solutions for everything. It is very strange to see that he's moving away from the Ras Pack, right? That's what I'm calling the four seamer sinker cutter because
Sure.
like the Rat Pack, you remember 3 of the pitches in the arsenal, and you forget the other 2. And of course after Drew Rasmussen. And yes, Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, and Sammy Davis Jr. But you can't tell me the other 2, can you, Eric?
No, I can't.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we love to see that that Griffin Jacks has that, but yeah, he's moved on from the four seamer and cutter all of a sudden, right? The sinker's leading the way with the slider, with the sweeper, with the curveball, and the changeup has been so good. By the way,
Mhm.
this changeup, oh my gosh, it is like the pitch against lefties now, and I love it. Sure, he didn't have a good start recently. I don't think that we should be ignoring the fact that he went 14 whiffs on 72 pitches and kept the
Yeah.
velocity that we've been worried about with Griffin Jacks. I'm very much in on this. I think the Rays are very much in on this. This is a guy that should be far better than what we just saw in one start.
Yeah, I tweeted after the start that it was a lineup with a lot of lefties, and the changeup command just wasn't really there for him in that one, and that's going to lead to issues when he faces lefty heavy lineups. But he missed tons of bats. It wasn't as crisp of an outing as we're used to seeing. I still think there's something there. I'm for sure taking the gamble, if it's a gamble, against the Marlins this weekend, and most likely against the Angels next week. The Blue Jays get 3 against the Orioles this weekend. They get 3 against the Phillies next week, and then 3 against the Yankees next week. It's 2-start week for Patrick Corbin, but it's Yankees-Phillies, so you're not going to do that. Yeah. This weekend, the Buffalo Bisons, the AAA team for the Blue Jays, have a starting rotation of Dylan Cease, Max Scherzer, Shane Bieber, which is a pretty wild starting rotation in AAA, but it is also showing us or telling us that in the coming weeks, we are going to get a lot of changeover in the Blue Jays rotation. We might even get Dylan Cease back next week. He might only need one rehab start. Same with Scherzer. I think Shane Bieber is a few more weeks away, but we're going to get a lot of turnover there, and that means, Patrick Corbin, it means Spencer Miles. We're likely going to shuffle some of those guys out of the rotation.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
So there's not much to talk about there, but just keep an eye on that kind of stuff as we go through. I guess the question, you starting Trey Savage against Baltimore this weekend?
Yes. I mean, it's kind of funny. I think there's this perception that Savage is, he's great, he's amazing. Guys, he allowed 5 earned runs against the Marlins. I mean, I understand it was kind of a late careful Icarus thing, but still, he allowed 5 earned runs against the Marlins. And then he walked 7. And it's like, yeah, this is not the floor that you wanted. And
right.
It could be really, really scary. But yeah, I think you still do it.
Yeah. Moving on to the AL Central, we have the White Sox, 3 at the Phillies this weekend, 3 against the Braves next week, 3 against the Dodgers next week. That's a real bad schedule for White Sox starting pitchers. I think it's part of the reason why you should be dropping David Sandlin. The last start was not particularly good. He gets the Phillies and Dodgers in his next 2 starts. You're not going to start him against the Phillies or the Dodgers. So I don't really think there's a reason to hold on to him for those 2 starts, but I don't know if you disagree with me on that.
I kind of do.
Okay.
I think I'm going to have him as a questionable against the Phillies. David Sandlin is not, sure, he's not necessarily going to be like 6 shutout like he was, and I know it was 1 earned run, but that was the first batter of the game in his debut. And after like the second pitch, it was a Buxton home run, and he was fantastic. And he's not the 8 earned runs that we just saw as well. I think he's somewhere in the middle here, and I'm not ready to just completely rule him out. This is a guy who throws hard, who has multiple pitches that has shown to be able to throw for strikes. He has some whiffability in here. The White Sox are a playoff contender now, so I could see this as a case where he bounces back in that 3rd start and then hold on to this for a while. There is certainly enough upside here still, even though you just had a really bad outing. Now, if you don't want to risk it, totally get it. He's going to be probably at the bottom of questionable start for me, but I don't want to just completely forget it and push him aside. I feel like it's one of those cases where I think about it constantly. I'm not saying he is this guy, but I remember Jose Fernandez had a terrible second start in his career, in his rookie year, and I dropped him. And then he was just like amazing after. And it to me has always been a lesson of like the second start, right then we don't really have a full picture yet. And it's always possible for a guy to bounce back, especially if he has above average stuff, which I believe Sandlin has.
Here's my secondary concern in addition to the matchups. We know that he went 4 innings in the last start where he gave up 8 runs. Yes, he went 6 innings against Minnesota in his debut. In the AAA starts or appearances before that, he went 4 innings, 2 innings, 2 innings, 4 innings, 2 innings, 2 innings. He has thrown more than 5 innings once all season in the minors and the majors. And that's not to say he can't. We obviously saw that he threw 6 innings in his MLB debut, but he will only go 5 innings if everything is clicking. And he is really, they have been limiting his pitches throughout the year, and maybe you could say, oh, that's to save his pitches for the big leagues, and maybe that's fine, but I think you're looking at him as a 5 inning guy, and so in a quality start league he loses tons of value to me, and I think it just makes the win total a little more questionable if we might not get him pitching deep into games.
I mean, that's a very interesting point. And it's really a question then to me is, all right, how much are we going to rely on those pitch counts? So yes, he was limited early on. The game before his MLB debut was 4 innings with 7 strikeouts and 71 pitches. MLB debut came, and I think he would have been pitched more, but he already got in 6 innings and it was 61 pitches. And then in the loss in 4 innings, it was 80 pitches.
Yeah.
So I don't see this as just like a raise situation of, hey, cool, you're just going to chill at 70, 75. If we've seen anything from the White Sox is that they generally like let their guys go. I remember Sean Burke and Shane Smith and so on and so forth. Like those guys were pushed to 90 pitches pretty quickly. I wouldn't be shocked if David Sandlin, as long as he's pitching up to snuff, won't be limited at like 5 innings and 70 pitches or so. Like he will be able to go into the sixth. Now, of course, the efficiency and the quality has to demand that. And that's a conversation. But I think as far as what the White Sox plan is, I'm not totally convinced that it's a low pitch count.
Fair. Last thing with the White Sox, just for people in 2-start leagues, Davis Martin has been pitching great, but it is Braves and Dodgers. Can you do that in a 2-start week?
No.
Okay. There you go.
There you go.
Moving on to the Guardians. They get 3 at Texas this weekend, 3 against the Yankees next week, and 3 against the Tigers. It's a 2-start week for Gavin Williams, Yankees, Tigers, but you still love it because Gavin Williams is pitching really well right now.
Yep.
I think it's another team where there's not really much to say. You're going to use Parker Messick and Gavin Williams regardless of who they're facing right now. You're probably not going to use Slade Ciccone regardless of who he's facing. Joey Cantillo, he can. We say this every time. It's like you just never know what you're going to get from him. You could start him. There's no analysis we can give you. It's just going to be, is he attacking the zone that day or not? Tanner Bybee, it's against Texas this weekend. Detroit next week. Can you do that for either one?
I don't want to deal with Tanner Bybee. I just don't. I would rather just look, if you're like just chasing volume, yes, he's going to get the opportunities. And if it's a 2-start, then consider it as like 1 bad, 1 good, and really think about what that means, right? Yeah. The collection of like 10 to 12 strikeouts. If that's what you want, then go ahead. I'm going to personally avoid it.
I've seen some interesting discussion online of people being like, well, why is, Tanner Bybee is their ace. He got signed to a long-term deal. And I think like we need to understand also that how teams like the Guardians operate. He got signed to essentially a 5-year, $50 million deal. Like that's, first of all, that's not ace money. That's like SP3, SP4 money. And a team like the Guardians can't, or SP2, SP3, whatever. Well, but the idea is a team like the Guardians can't spend like that in free agency. So locking Bybee up doesn't mean he's their ace. It just means he's going to be in their rotation. And I think we told ourselves this narrative because of his contract extension and his early career success that he was a front of the line arm, and he might just be a middle of the rotation arm, and that's not a bad thing. It still gives him value in certain matchups.
So I do want to mention also with that contract of 5 years and 50, it was covering 4 of his pre-free agency years. Mm-hmm. So, right. So he'd be making the minimum last year, and he made, I believe it was 5,000, and then actually, 3.4 million rather. 5,000. My gosh. And then it's 4.4, then 7.4, 10.4, and then this first year free agency would be 21.4 with a club option for 21.4 again in 2030. So really, when it comes down to it, when that signing happened, having the the arbitration averaging like around like 5 to 7 million, I guess, for 4 years, like fine.
Right.
Like that's really what that is. And then 21 million on the free agent market is like 1.5 WAR, 2 WAR or so is what they were giving for 29. Not really the biggest endorsement, right?
Exactly.
So keep that in mind with that contract. And yeah, Bybee, he's going to be around, but like, it doesn't matter what the Guardians think. It's what we think, Eric.
It's Sure, it is what we think. And what do you think about the Detroit Tigers?
Yeah.
They have three against the Mariners this weekend, three against Minnesota next week, and three at Cleveland. We don't. This is a team where we don't really know how the rotation is going to stack up because they're expected to get Justin Verlander back next week. He looked pretty good in his rehab outing this week in AAA. I know Fangraphs has Tarek Skubal back in the rotation. I don't think it's going to happen that quickly, but right now we just aren't entirely sure of the matchups because we have Verlander coming back. So I just would want to talk to you about Troy Melton, who started yesterday's game and looked, a little shaky early on. He's not missing a ton of bats right now, but he's also not really getting hit hard and he's getting good results. Do you think that this is like it's only a matter of time before there's a really bad outing because he's not showing the swing and miss that we wanted? Or is Troy Melton usable in all 12 team formats also because he's got a deep pitch mix and he's pitching relatively well?
Yeah, I think that everybody should be rostering Troy Melton and rolling with us. That's 15 innings in 2 games. And when it comes to the kinds of pitchers I really like are the ones who are able to be efficient and locate well and have whiffability and more to untap inside of their arsenal, right? We don't think that this is who Troy Melton is as a low swing strike rate guy, low strikeout ability, because we know that his splitter and his curveball have not really been utilized super well. The sinker, not so much. The cutter is great. The slider is great. The four seamer is great. I think those three as a package on their own should be earning more whiffs over time. And when I think about some of the surprise studs of the past, like Christopher Sanchez from last year and Zach Wheeler and Alcantara before they took their leaps, those were guys we all circled because they were really good quality volume arms who happened to also have a path for more. And I am always on the lookout for those kinds of pitchers. I think that Troy Melton fits that profile as well. I would be holding tight onto Troy Melton.
Yep, I agree with you. And then, do you have any interest in Verlander if he comes off the IL next week? Not to start, but like to be adding back to your teams.
No, I honestly was kind of thinking that this might be it even for him. So I'm not.
I had thought that too. I should note the Red Sox just announced that they are using Brian Bayo as a traditional starter today against the Orioles. So he's going to fall on his face. But no, I mean, that goes to your point about maybe we start getting a version of him that's helpful in quality start leagues, just something to keep an eye on. The Royals, they have 3 against Minnesota this weekend. They have 3 against Texas next week. They have 3 against Houston next week. It's 2-start week for Stephen Kolek against the Rangers and the Astros. I know you talked about Stephen Kolek on the Craft with Eno Saris. 2-start week for Stephen Kolek, Rangers, Astros. Does that interest you?
Oh, man. Rangers, Astros. Okay. Stephen Kolek had a really good 9-inning game, right? Complete game was awesome. It was great. He was fatigued in the next one. And it was the theory I have about like, okay, our guy's going to be worse in their next game because they need more time to recover because they've been pushed. Happened there. I didn't know if it would linger any longer. It didn't. You just had a really good start yesterday with 8 strikeouts in 7 innings because the slider was so good down and glove side. It was the best slider I've seen from Kolek all year. And that makes me excited. I'm not really afraid of the Rangers or the Astros, especially right-handed heavy Astros with his good right-handed approach in Kansas City. I think those are 2 starts I would go for.
Yep, I'm with you on that. I think this is Kolek is somebody that I know some people listen to this and think about like, who am I adding on waiver wires? Like Kolek would be an option because of that 2-start week. Not an option for me would be Lunder Avila. I know he had a decent last outing, but I'm not buying into it. And so I wouldn't start him against Minnesota this weekend or against Houston next week. We're starting to see a little bit of a turnaround stat-wise from Noah Cameron. Are you seeing anything different that's making you think like he's quote-unquote back?
Yes. His command looks like his 2025 self, right? I mean, he's throwing a little bit harder now, too. He's like settled in at 92.5 or so, not like the 91 maybe you saw at the beginning of the year. But he's also utilizing his four-seamer far better. He's throwing it up and out of the zone as opposed to inside the zone and having the secondaries getting the strikes instead, which is the Ronel Blanco method, of not getting beat on your four seamers, right? You know it's a bad fastball. So instead of here, go hit the thing, you avoid it.
Mhm.
Cal Brash has done this as well. So I like this. He has good cutters, good changeups, good sliders, good curveballs. It's a much better version of Cameron. I have this innate hesitation to just kind of send it because
Sure.
it's really like a potential Holly and not like a 25% strikeout 6 inning guy, right?
Yeah.
So I don't really want to be so aggressive about it. If you want to wait a little bit longer, fine. But you might be missing the boat. This could just be another lovely stretch ahead for Noah
Right.
Cameron because he does look
Though,
like the 2025 self.
yeah, it is the Twins this weekend, but then it's the Astros next week. And you just mentioned how right-handed heavy they are. Now we know he has a good changeup, but it is just something to consider as a
Yep.
left-handed pitcher. Wrapping up the AL Central with the Twins, they get 3 against the Royals this weekend, 3 at the Tigers next week, and then 3 against the Cardinals. It's 2-start week for Taj Bradley at Detroit against St. Louis. It wasn't a great start last time out for Taj Bradley. Can you go right back to it here with this 2-start week?
Well, Cashew has interrupted this podcast completely for me, and I will tell you all about Taj Bradley and his, oh gosh, his hipster self after this break. Cashew hasn't left, everyone. Taj Bradley had an amazing still ill, and we're like, oh, we didn't start him there. And then once he do, he has 2 bad starts after as we confidently start him. It's classic Taj Bradley.
It is. This
He
is what he
just needs
does.
to get his secondaries down. Curveball and splitter were just so bad. I don't know what we're gonna get. I know I've been like the disbeliever and everything like that. So many people missed out maybe because I said no, no, no when he was doing so well before, and now they don't want to trust me on it. Sure, just do what you feel. I don't believe in Taj Bradley, especially considering we're seeing the same problems that we saw before perk
Yeah.
up. So I'd be very cautious.
Are you? I sent you a message the beginning of the Connor Prielipp start, and I was like, I think it's over for Connor Prielipp. And then, to his credit, he bounced back a little bit in that start against the White Sox, and had a bunch of strikeouts and went 6. I think wound up going 6. Have you turned the page? It hasn't been a great run recently, but he did bounce back. Are you still in on Connor Prielipp? What are your thoughts now that we have a few more starts under our belt?
I'm interested. I see how it works.
Mhm.
Better slider to lefties in that one. Just not quite as many back foot sliders to righties, and the changeup still hasn't taken off. And I wish casted a little too much on that one. It's there. Like I see exactly how it works. It's just all right. Like, are you going to be consistent with that changeup? Are you going to be consistent with that back foot slider? Don't know. I
Yeah.
feel he's a worthy spec, really. If you're like looking for that potential impact play, and against the Cardinals this weekend, that's totally cool with me. And then at Arizona, I feel like that's fine too. Like those are both questionable starts for me, and I'm hoping that that I get more encouraged by at least one of them.
I think you jumped one. It is against the Royals this weekend and then the Cardinals next week.
Oh gosh, I went too far ahead. Oh man, look at
Yeah.
me. Cardinals again. It's the same kind of idea of the Royals and Cardinals. Those are very similar to the other matchups. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we saw that bad start for Zebby Matthews that we thought we were going to get, and I think I'm not fully in on Zebby here.
Yeah.
The Royals this weekend, I don't know. I can't do it right now.
Yeah, neither can I.
Moving on to the AL West, we have the Athletics 3 at Houston, and then next week, all games at home. It's 3 against the Brewers. It's 3 against the Rockies. We have spoken about, we understand pitching in Sacramento is not something that we want. So it's probably going to be a fade on almost all of these guys. My question for you is Gage Jump. Gets Houston this weekend. He gets Colorado in Sacramento next week. I think you and I were both kind of had similar opinions on him. I wrote about him Monday in my streaming starting pitcher article where I looked at his MLB debut, and I basically said that it's a good stuff pitcher whose locations are questionable, who you probably won't want to pitch at home either. And so it makes it for really limited usage, but if his command is on, he has good stuff. And so he's going to do things like what he did against the Cubs. But
Right.
then again, I watched a lot of that start, and I also was like, I don't like Alex Bregman popped up on a sweeper that was at the top of his helmet. Like there were just a lot of swing decisions for the Cubs where I was like, I don't know if it's because they've never seen him before, and so they're just not reading the ball
Sure.
well out of his hand. He has, a really, really, really low release height, as Lance Brosdowski wrote about, like well below league average. And so maybe it was just hard to pick up right away. But I didn't watch that start and go, man, he is dominating the Cubs. It was just he was throwing pretty well and getting lots of swings on pitches that he shouldn't have gotten swings on, and was getting out of some jams. And so I he intrigues me, but I don't love him against Houston this weekend. And I guess I could start him against the Rockies. It's just in Sacramento, and that's always in the back of my head.
Yeah, Gage Jump. By the way, Alex Bregman being on the Cubs still weirds me out. Um, Gage Jump in that game just had a really good fastball. It was just really hard for the Cubs to hit this fastball. As Brzezowski mentioned, right? Really low release height. It's like a 1.6, 1.7 height adjusted VAA at 96 from the left side. He actually threw harder in this one than he did in his debut for the entirety of it. But the problem I see is that the secondaries are not locked in, right? We see moments where we get these nice, lovely whiffs on them, but they're not there yet. And I am kind of waiting for that to be really excited about Gage Jump. He also has a history of volatility, as you mentioned, of course, and we don't know. Like, it feels like he's going to be a hipster. There's a chance he does actually lock in, right? We don't quite know yet. So when he's outside of Sacre Verde, I am kind of in. And like, this is a questionable start for me at Houston for Gage Jump. And then he's going to get Rocky Road, right? And I feel like, okay, I would have that on my team. It's kind of like the perfect scenario of getting these decent matchups and also being able to have the guy if he does really show that next stuff.
Yeah. Moving on to the Astros. 3 against the Athletics in Houston this weekend, 3 at the Angels, and 3 at the Royals. That would be a lovely 2-start week for Spencer Arrighetti, but we might be getting Hunter Brown back next week, which would mean we might not get any 2-start week. Obviously, great for the Astros if Hunter Brown comes back. Likely would move Kaiwei Tang out of the rotation. Yeah. Mike Burrows also hasn't pitched well, but they signed him or they got him in the offseason. Feels like he's in the rotation. Have you seen anything from Tatsuya Imai over the last couple of starts which would make you inclined to start him against the Athletics? Chandler Rome of The Athletic, not the team, but the publication, wrote that Imai had found a problem with his balance point on his left heel, which I was thinking about. I'm like, okay, but you're a righty, so your left heel,
that's
like,
landing
is
foot,
it
right?
on your landing foot? So I guess he'd found a balance issue on his landing foot, which he corrected, which he claims makes him feel more comfortable and more confident, which has allowed him to be in the zone more often. And it's like, okay, that's I like that. I don't know that I'm like, check, we fixed this issue, but I am now keeping my eye on Imai. He's getting closer to being on my radar because I think if he's in the zone more often, we will start to see more of his arsenal, but we've still really only seen 2 pitches.
Yeah. Have you ever had that friend of yours that's like, oh man, you gotta get the bacon, egg, and cheese at this deli on the corner? What they do is they take the egg and they first swirl it inside. Then they put it down and they just wait for the right time to take it from the griddle and they flip it over, but not all of it. Just a little corner here and a little corner here. Then they get the bacon, they put the bacon on top of the egg and then you eat it and it's like, oh yeah, this is bacon, egg, and cheese. Right? Like, that is what it sounds like to me from the left heel balance. And I trust me, I'm the guy sounding like the one describing the bacon, egg, and cheese to you all the time. But that to me is like, all right, let's just see, what are you doing? Are you actually having success now? Is it like, oh, if you only threw strikes so effectively, it would be really great? Not the case. As you mentioned, 2 pitches. The slider wasn't as reverse in the last one. It was more of the gyro kind than like the real scattered. But the fact that it is just still 2 pitches, doesn't have a splitter anywhere, it's not it's a fastball that can be very flat, but it's not innately good movement, and I wouldn't trust the Mai to be completely Blake Snell blueprint all the time.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's still jury is still out. I have him as questionables. It's like maybe, but I don't really like it. I also want to give him extra bonus points for being MI, right? A guy who's had a lot of success in his past,
Right.
who has a mentality that you don't really see from a lot of guys, which is like, yeah, I want to beat the Dodgers. He is very much of like, I'm going to figure this out. He has that kind of warrior mentality, which I know it's not like think fast, right? It's not really like things that we can quantify. But Ian Khan talks about, or at least he's very much about the mental thought process of
The
players, and
demeanor. Yeah, yeah.
leads him his guidance a lot, and he does really great things with it. So that's one where I actually kind of believe in it for the long term a little bit more. So I'm inclined to say like, all right, questionable against Athletics, kind of what I was talking about with Gage Jump of putting yourself in the scenario to hit,
Mhm.
as opposed to being confident in this exact start.
I don't want to go too deep on the Astros here, but I do think we should talk about Peter Lambert. It's also against the Athletics this weekend and then at the Angels. So that's two pretty good spots. Are you interested in all league types or just like deeper leagues with Lambert for that?
He's like a 15 team Toby, or maybe sometimes like 12 team or so. Against the Athletics at home, fine. At Los Angeles, fine. I need to see Lambert doing better with his changeup, essentially, against left-handers, being consistent with that. And then hopefully the four seamer can stay up, the cutter can be effective, the slider can be effective. I just need to see more consistency across the arsenal.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a quicker conversation with the Angels. They get 3 at the Dodgers this weekend. They get 3 against Houston next week and 3 against Tampa Bay. That's 2-start week for Grayson Rodriguez, but you are not chasing. So we will be avoiding that. Jose Soriano has come back to earth a little bit. The command issues that we knew when everybody was talking about him as an AL Cy Young Award winner, have reared their heads a little bit. He gets the Dodgers this weekend, which is not a start that I really love. I could see, using him against Tampa Bay next week. And then I guess the only really one I want to ask you about is Walbert Urania. He had a quality start in the middle of this week. It wasn't a dominant start, but it was fine. We have, kind of talked about him a lot now in terms of that sinker, or, I guess it's sinker, that changeup that's
Right.
90 whatever miles an hour, being the bread and butter pitch, and the sweeper being something that he really kind of needs in order to be consistently successful. But it is now 7 straight good starts.
Yeah, they're all just like good. They're not
Right.
all dominant. It's like 5 or 6 innings of like a few earned runs and maybe a strikeout an inning. It's always 3 walks. Like, I'm not even kidding. 5 of his last 7 have been exactly 3 walks.
Mm-hmm. But if you look at the overall stat line, like over the last month, it's 34 innings of a 2.12 ERA and a 109 WHIP with 31 strikeouts. Like, that's a very usable pitcher. It's more, do we believe in it? It's Houston this weekend, or sorry, next week. And I kind of think I'm gonna let it ride.
Yeah, I think so too. What's also kind of interesting against Rocky Road is that he allowed 300 runs in 6 innings and 3 walks and 3 hits and 7 Ks in a start where he had a sub 50% strike rate on his changeup. And that's because his sinker woke up and really nailed the outside edge to left-handers, which I haven't seen from Walbert Arena. Like, he's done it sometimes, but consistently in a game is kind of wild. So I am a little worried that the changeup will not be there again. But I do want to say, hey, this looks like an anomaly right now. He's a 65% strike rate on that changeup throughout the year at this point. So I am with you that like we keep rolling with it. It really doesn't speak sustainability because of the high walk rates, because of the low 7 hit per 9 so far, and the fact as Cashew turns off my light, that he doesn't have a sweeper working. He can't figure the thing out. He just can't. He can't locate this against righties. He had a sub 50% strike rate on that too yesterday. I believe it was 7 or 15, and it's a 48% strike rate, 122 sweepers thus far. Without that, it's a little less believable. for the long term. But I hope that Wilbert Rainey gets there.
Yes, and I hope that Cashew turns the light back on for you. Mariners, they get 3 at Detroit this weekend. They get 3 at Baltimore, 4 at Baltimore, and then 3 at the Nationals next week. It's 2-start week for Logan Gilbert, George Kirby. I know George Kirby wasn't great the last time out, but you're still going to roll with that. And I don't think we really need to discuss any of these guys on Seattle. They're not really streamers. We've talked about them a bunch before. Moving on to the Rangers, it's 3 against the Guardians this weekend, 3 at Kansas City next week, and 3 at Boston. That's 2-start week for Nathan Eovaldi, which you love to see. My question for you is just about Kumar Rocker. 3 of the last 4 outings, he has not allowed a run. The other outing, he got hit really hard by the Astros. I know we don't really believe this, but the results have been there enough that people are going to, see the Guardians and then see the Royals and say, those aren't really bad matchups. And I think I might want to do this. And what would you say to those people?
I get it. He's throwing more sliders and cutters combined, and that's a good thing because those are much better than his fastballs. I still think it's very meh. There's kind of this wave of like an 83-mile-per-hour gyro sliders that are getting by this year. I think of like Bryce Elder inside of that group, for example. And Kumar Rocker, maybe. I mean, it's against the Guardians. Lefties, I don't really like that idea, but fine. But then again, he got rocked by the Astros, a lot of righties. You do you guys. I have him as a questionable start there and against the Royals. But I don't really want to put my hand in the spot.
I'm with you on that. We're going to move on to the NL. We're going to have to go through the NL a little bit quicker. So we're starting with the Braves. It's 3 against the Pirates this weekend. It's 3 at the White Sox next week. It's 3 at the Mets. It's a Grant Holmes 2-start week. White Sox, Mets. Can you do that, Nick?
Well, I'm going to tell you after this break. Can I do Grant Holmes? No. I mean, he just had his most ridiculous start of a 53% O swing on his slider and a 44% CSW on his 4-seamer. And that's about 70% of his pitches. And he returned 4 strikeouts. And in a 117 whip. Yeah, I know it was 6 innings of 200 runs, but like that should be the best start from you. And it's, oh gosh, I can't really depend on this. So I don't want to go after Grant Holmes.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm just trying to stay away from these guys for the most part. Moving on to the Marlins, it's weird for Miami. I think they have 2 starters, Sandy Alcantara and Max Meyer. I guess like now Tyler Phillips is in the rotation. Ryan Gusto might be in the rotation. They could call up Braxton Garrett again. It's just a situation that I am avoiding with the exception of Max Meyer. And then I guess, like, are you just still in the I'm going to roll Sandy Alcantara out there? He gets Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh, and so they're not matchups we're, like, running away from. I think you just – are you using him in all formats still, or are you moving on in shallower ones?
Gosh, for shallower ones, I'm moving on. I already moved on from in my 12-teamer in Quality Start League even because I found myself having a really good rotation, and then this is the one guy that is the most volatile. It's not necessarily about the ceiling there. It's about like, all right, I'm trying to remove myself from those really bad weeks in a head-to-head. So if you have him, I think you got to start him, right? But I'm not really seeing anything brand new from him that's interesting. And I do want to mention Tyler Phillips throws 96 with 19 to 20 inches of horizontal run. And I think that's pretty dang cool.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious if this can pan out. He throws a splitter. He throws a sweeper, a curveball in there too, a 4-seamer that he shouldn't really throw. So I wonder if Tyler Phillips, when we see more of him, as he gets the Tampa Bay Rays, the Diamondbacks, and the Phillies, if we actually start being interested in those matchups. I'm not saying go for it now, but if have a desperate stream on Friday and or maybe next Thursday, you need something. Tyler Phillips is not going to be rostered in any of your leagues, and I don't think he's this terrible.
Yeah. And Ryan Gusto apparently has a new slider. It's something I've been reading Marlins people talking about. So just, again, something to watch when he's out there.
Okay.
Moving on to the Mets. They get 3 against the Padres this weekend. They get 3 against the Cardinals next week and 3 against the Braves. The big question is if they're going to activate Kodai Senga. off the injured list. He's been around 80 pitches or above, I think, in his last two rehab outings. But this last one on Wednesday, I think he hit two guys. He threw two wild pitches. So it was not a great command outing from Senga. So maybe they, choose to give him another rehab outing. So that's something to watch. It's Sean Manaea this Sunday against the Padres team that doesn't handle lefties. He's in that kind of bulk relief role, that follower role. Are you buying back in on Manaea at all in any formats?
I mean, I do like the fact that he's increased his velocity back to 92. Yes. It's
Yes.
not 88. That was in the spring. I mean, yeah, he's actually showcased that maybe like his last two bulk games. That was like 90, 91. But it is the Padres, and they really don't like lefties. The downside is that he's only gone around 60 plus pitches in each of the last three appearances for Sean Manaea. So I'm not a big fan of that. He likely will have an opener, and he could be there at the end of the fifth. It would require, of course, that the Mets are winning in that game for you to get that win, and it might be against Randy Vasquez, who's fine enough that I don't know if I necessarily am targeting it, but I can understand the belief that, hey, that he's throwing harder. He had a 35% CSW in those 63 pitches in Seattle. Again, good situation. It's not the worst thing ever, but I wouldn't circle it as like I need to get that one.
Yeah, I do. I'm interested for this weekend. And then again, because you talked about the Padres' struggles against lefties. And then from there, I'm kind of like, we'll see, I guess. Moving on to the Phillies, they get 3 against the White Sox this weekend, 3 at Toronto next week, 3 at Milwaukee, 2-start week for Christopher Sanchez, which you love. This is pretty simple for me. Sanchez, Wheeler, and Luzardo, you're starting basically against anybody. And right now, Painter and Nola, I'm trying not to start.
Nola just had his best start. Like, it was 93, and he's also had a better fastball command in 2 of his last 3. That's all I'm going to throw out there.
Sure.
It's possible he is he coming back if you're looking for something and he's out there and you don't want to trust him. This is some sign.
It is wild to be like, I don't know if I want to pitch him against the White Sox, but that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah. I'm just throwing that out there that maybe he is locking back in, but it needs to be at 93, right? It needs to be at that velocity.
The Nationals get 3 against the Diamondbacks this weekend, 3 at San Francisco next week, 3 against Seattle. It's a 2-start week next week for Miles Michaelis, which I would recommend you not do. Cade Cavalli pitches on Sunday Night Baseball on NBC and Peacock in a curveball show-off with Michael Soroka. So that should be an interesting match there. The lefties against the Giants next week, Andrew Alvarez, Foster Griffin. The Giants are the worst offense in baseball right now. Could you do that?
I mean, Alvarez throws sliders and curveballs a ton, 65% or so. The problem is that this fastball and sinker are not good. It's really fastball, 4-seamer. And he needs to figure out how to work that in a little bit better because he'll go under 5 innings at 80 plus pitches like he did on Wednesday because he's just inefficient. You are going to get some whiffs, but you are not going to get early outs. You are going to get guys being a little more passive, and it's just going to hurt you unless you have something that demands them to swing inside the zone more often. So I hope he can develop that. It's possible. It's the Giants again, as you mentioned, worst offense in baseball. It's in Oracle Park and not in DC. So it's possible that it does stretch out into 5+ innings and of something good with those curveballs and sliders. While Foster Griffin is a Toby. He is a solid Toby against the worst offense in baseball in a amazing pitcher's park. Sounds fine to me.
I sign up for that as well. NL Central, we have the Cubs get 3 against the Giants this weekend. They go 3 at Colorado next week and 3 at San Francisco. It is a 2-start week for Shota Imanaga. So even though one of those is at Colorado, you got to do it because the other one is against the Giants. And, Imanaga, it has been relatively good, even though the home runs are coming back. The Cubs are expected to get Edward Cabrera back on Saturday, and then also expected to get Matthew Boyd back. And so that rotation will kind of come back a little bit. Unfortunately for Cabrera, it's, a still ill on Saturday and then Coors next week. So not the best runway. My question for you is about Ben Brown, who we've always had some questions about moving into the rotation. The last two starts were good, but they were also against the Pirates and the Cardinals. And so I know those offenses are better than we expected, but I still don't know that they're great offenses. Uh, are we seeing Ben Brown maybe turn a corner because of this sinker? And he gets the Giants this weekend. Like, can you do it?
I mean, I have that as a probable start.
Yeah.
There's sometimes I do these grades where I'm like, look, if you're reading this, I know that you're going to do it. I'm not necessarily saying I'm not going to be the one that says I don't know, questionable. Like everyone who has Ben Brown, it's a probable start against the Giants. Okay.
Right.
And the thing is, I look at this arsenal. I look at what he's doing, how he's getting his oats, right? And Ben Brown for 3 straight games before this one was returning 30+% swing strikes on his curveball. Not sustainable. Like that's a great curveball, don't get me wrong. 30% plus, 35%. Like, are you kidding me? There's no pitch in baseball that lasts that way for the entire season, right? The best we ever see is a 27% slider. So that was going to come down. And the sinker has been great to right-handers. Like that is a thing. But I still see this as a 2.5 pitch pitcher. The changeup is barely touched. Its usage is 12% against lefties, 0 against righties. And the sinker doesn't exist against lefties, of course, only exists against righties. And I just feel that he needs something else because the four-seamer and sinker do not get whiffs. They return the four-seamer returns more hard contact than it does weak contact, and it's something that just doesn't last. There really isn't enough with the sinker to right-handers. That's good. But the problem is more against the left-handers. For me to really say that he's going to be a sustainable thing throughout the year. But fine, roll with it for now.
Yeah. Sorry, I had to laugh in the middle because I checked the box scores and I saw that Brian Bale has given up 5 runs on 4 hits and 2 walks in the first inning of this game. So it's like,
oh gosh,
maybe go back to throwing somebody else as an opener for him.
Maybe he just needs like the extra time to warm up.
I don't know. There's no explanation. The only explanation is that it's a mental thing. It's a mental thing. Moving on to the Reds, they get 3 against the Cardinals this weekend. They get 3 at San Diego next week, 3 against Arizona next week. It's 2-start week for Andrew Abbott. Padres and Diamondbacks, we like to see that. We should get Rhett Lauder back potentially Sunday against Seattle. We're not going to start him there, but my question to you is just, are you interested in Rhett Lauder at all if he looks decent against the Cardinals?
What he used to be to me is like a Toby who can command well. He stopped commanding well, but he was injured. Maybe gets back to it. I don't know. We'll see. Just wait and see. Don't really chase any of it now. Lodolo's looking better. He should be honestly a auto start in time. And then you have Andrew Abbott against the lefty hating Padres. So even though Andrew Abbott is repeating the whole thing of like he's doing well, but I don't actually really understand again. It did actually look closer to the image of what he's trying to do with sweepers away to lefties and changeups away to righties and generally curveballs down, but then the four-seamer was not up at all. That's what it was last time he survived again. So we're back to that world.
We are. The Brewers, 3 at Colorado this weekend, 3 at the Athletics next week, and 3 against Philadelphia. It's 2-start week for Kyle Harrison, who just continues to dominate, and so you're going to throw him out there. Harrison and Mizrowski, you're pitching whenever, wherever right now. They're meant to be together.
Okay, Shakira.
Yes, had to do it. Shane Drohan, I know people are like interested in. He isn't really going deep into games. He gets Coors this weekend, and then Brandon Woodruff is expected to come back next week, and so I think that will bump Drohan out of the rotation.
However,
we don't really know because Robert Gasser is also in there now, so one of those guys is gonna leave.
And what have been the comments on my boy Brandon Sproat? We don't know. We'll figure it out. He gets Coors. This is like his audition to survive. Yeah. You know, if he does badly against the Rockies in Colorado, I think he will. Then you might see Shane Drohan stick around, right?
Maybe we also have Coleman Crow today.
Whatever. I think Drohan is the guy that they want. He was a prospect starter in the first place, and he's already gone through the ringer that the Brewers love to do. Of first, let's start you as a reliever, and then introduce you in as a starter, and they properly started him. They didn't even open him. Yeah. So I think that's a stronger indication for me that Drohan might actually get it. It's too bad he gets Coors though.
So then,
Yeah.
of the four guys,
Mhm.
Gasser, Drohan, Crow, Sproat, you're
Drohan.
okay. Yeah, and I had some interest in Gasser preseason, but that was more as like last round pick in a draft and hold because he had been a prospect of note. So I'm keeping an eye on him, but I agree with you. I have Drohan above them. The Pirates get 3 at Atlanta this weekend. They get 3 against the Dodgers next week, and then 3 against Miami. It's 2-start week for Paul Skeens, so you're not, getting anything, sexy there. You're going to pitch Paul Skeens, obviously. We talked about Jared Jones. Actually, we didn't talk about him, but we talked about him before starting to record. That it was a still ill. The command wasn't great, but you expect that after UCL surgery. But the stuff looked really good. We actually saw like more changeups than we did last
He had
year.
4 pitches. He actually had
Yeah.
4. It wasn't 4-seamer slider. It was 4. He threw double digits with curveballs and changeups. Oh, it was good.
Yeah, I wish. I mean, we were talking about it. He starts against Houston today. We're going to use him. We hope it goes well. Unfortunately, it is the Dodgers next week. That's a tough one. I might, we'll see how he looks. It might be a bench for me, but it's not going to be a drop.
Jared
We'll see how we
Jones
go
is
there.
looking like how Spencer Strider wanted to look.
Ooh, I like that. Moving to the Cardinals because there's somebody I want to talk about. 3 against the Reds this weekend, 3 at the Mets next week, 3 at Minnesota. Nick, it's 2-start week next week for Dustin May at the Mets, at the Twins. Dustin May, I was texting with my buddy Sammy Ackley, who I did the Catcher's Corner with podcast for the longest time.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Sammy has Dustin May on his team, and at one point in the start 2 nights ago, Dustin May had 7 strikeouts and 8 total whiffs. And I was like, I don't understand how that's possible. Like, I don't, I mean, like, I get it conceptually, but like, it wasn't like he was missing tons of bats. He was getting ahead on called strikes, and then the put away rate was like around 60%. But Dustin May, as you and Eno chatted about on the craft, I believe 2 episodes ago, made a pitch mix change towards the end of April and has seen pretty consistent success since then.
Yeah. He's by the way, I think that was the first time I met you, Eric, was on that podcast.
It may have been. Yeah, probably.
Way back when. I love him. Sammy, hope you're well. It's been ages. And with Dustin May, it's if you remove the first 2 starts of the year, he has like a 3 ERA and a 110 whip. And it's like, oh, right. Also, the first 4 innings, he had 8 strikeouts and no earned runs and everything. I was like, this is great. And then it fell apart in the 5th. Fine. But Dustin May against the Mets, you kidding me? Look, he needs to figure out the sweeper. The sweeper got a lot of strikes and did well, but it was more so against lefties than righties, and he needs to figure that out against righties for whiffs, and that really will be the solution because everything else is working against lefties. He's elevating 4-seamers really well now. Great. So it's really that last piece of the puzzle, and it's a good situation. Being in St. Louis, they're going to let him go long. It's a good defense. Like, it all should work. So I'm down for that. Yeah.
Yeah, be a great waiver ad in shallow formats. If
the other one I would want to mention is Andre Palante at the Mets because Palante is throwing harder and he has been effective. Like it has generally worked. So I'm very curious to see if Palante can do enough against the Mets. It's the Mets. Like if you want to test the waters for one game, okay, that's the one I would maybe try with Andre Palante on Wednesday next week.
We got the NL West, which we're going to go quick through. I'm just going to say you're not going to start any Rockies pitchers. They have 6 straight games in Coors and then go to Sacramento, so you're avoiding that totally. The Diamondbacks get 3 against the Nationals this weekend, 3 at Miami next week, 3 at Cincinnati. It's a Zach Gallen 2-start week.
No,
it's at Miami, which is intriguing, but then it's at Cincinnati.
No, okay. I can't. No, stop. You can't do it. No.
Eduardo Rodriguez, is this a Vargas rule?
Ish. I mean, he goes against the Washington Nationals fine, and he's a Toby. Sometimes it works. Oh, look, okay against the Dodgers or so. It can fall apart, but yeah, sure. If you need a win or a quality start on Sunday.
Yeah, Ryan Nelson gets the Dodgers today, which is but then Miami next week, which we
Yeah.
love.
Mhm.
Speaking of those Dodgers, they get 3 against the Angels this weekend, 3 at Pittsburgh next week, 3 at the White Sox. We know the Dodgers don't do 2-start weeks, so they're not going to have one. Justin Robleski, Roki Sasaki. Robleski gets Pittsburgh next week. Sasaki gets the White Sox next week. Can you start either of them, both of them?
Roki Sasaki has done 3 different things to have success in each of his 3 starts. I'm not totally sold on it, but the fact is you could argue that, hey, his 3 different paths to success now. That's a really cool thing. Take whatever side you want. I think we're at a point of his confidence is gaining. So you start him against the Angels on Friday, and then, I guess you do it against the White Sox the next week, but
yeah,
the White Sox, who knows? And Robleski is throwing harder finally, and he's maybe expanding his arsenal a little bit more. His spreadsheets tell him he's looking great, so we're going to go with him.
You gotta love the spreadsheets.
Love him.
How about Eric Lauer at Pittsburgh? Can you do it?
No.
Okay.
No, I cannot. He had very few whiffs on that four-seamer, unfortunately.
Last 2 teams. Let's go to the Padres. They get 3 against the Mets this weekend. They get 3 against Cincinnati next week, 3 at Baltimore. It's a 2-start week for Walker Buehler. So you're getting a lot of 2-start weeks you really don't want to touch next week. And I think that's important.
Okay. Giolito, right now, 3.1 innings with 14 whiffs on 60 pitches against the Phillies. Mm-hmm. And he's sitting 92, not 90, which is cooler. He has whiffs on a slider. His changeup is 4-seamer. It's more interesting. I'm not saying I'm going to do it against the Reds because the Reds are better now.
But he gets the Cardinals the week after, which is intriguing.
And maybe that works. He's going to likely
sadly 2-start week for him. But
he likely will be my lead of the roundup as he has 4 Ks, 1 walk, 3 hits, 0 runs through 3.1. Watch, he's going to get burned now, but you're going to want to know more about him. So he's attacking, getting lots of strikes. It's pretty interesting at the moment. I'm curious.
Yes, we'll see how this start ends up. This is against the Phillies on Thursday that you're talking about. Last team, the Giants. They get 3 at the Cubs this weekend, 3 against Washington, 3 against the Cubs next week. It's 2-start week for Logan Webb, Cubs and Nationals we like to see. Trevor McDonald, we think he's staying in the rotation, but we're not entirely sure because when Maui comes back, are you at all intrigued? Are you still using Trevor McDonald? And then is it over for Landon Rupp?
It is not over with Landon Rupp. I mean, it was a back thing that bothered him in the second inning. Mm-hmm. That's what he said. So if they're starting him, that means he's okay, in my view. And if he's okay, then great. I think Landon Rupp is an amazing command guy, while Trevor McDonald, why aren't you throwing more sliders? I don't get it. Like, you threw like 54% sinkers. No, you gotta figure out that slider. Changeup has been better against lefties, so I think he has it. It's just whatever. And Robbie Ray, my gosh, you just can't start him in Wrigley. You can't. It's like the worst stretch of his career almost, the last 3 games. And Wrigley is a terrible place to pitch in June. So if you want, you can say Landon Rupp is even a questionable after that really bad one, and it's in Wrigley. But I do believe in both of those guys moving forward that they will correct whatever is ailing them.
And there you have it. We did it. We got through it. There's no pleasantries here at the end. Eric's got to run. Yeah. But we'll be back again to do this next week, hopefully with a little bit more time to give you a little bit more detail, but hopefully this was useful for you. Just as a quick note, because we like to do it at the end, we did talk about some guys that were on the waiver wire. Dustin May as a 2-start week. Andre Payante is somebody that we also liked. Nick told you just to keep an eye on Tyler Phillips with Miami. Just look at it, watch it, because he's got some intriguing movement profile. Andrew Alvarez against the Giants was somebody we were interested in. Foster Griffin right now, if he's available in your leagues. Walbert Urania, we are continuing to kind of roll with. Peter Lambert in deeper formats. We're not yet there with Tatsuya Imai. 2-start week for Stephen Kolek, Rangers and Astros was something that we were intrigued by. We are fully closed the door on Brian Bayo. And Nick was a little bit more optimistic on Trevor Rogers than the results
and
had.
Stay in on Griffin Jacks, and I would take a chance on Gage at Jump and just see what happens.
There you go. That's going to do it. I am Eric Samolsky, the Pelican.
I'm Nick Pollock, the Lion.
And go New York Knicks.